General Diane, in some circles friendly to Israel, it's feared that your forces are perhaps a little overconfident. Now, do you think it's possible that you are underestimating the fighting potential of your enemy?
Well, it can be. Maybe that we are underestimating our enemy. I don't know.
ABC, Ray Maloney, sir. Do you believe that Israel has lost any major military element by agreeing to this long drawn-out diplomatic action to try and solve this crisis?
I've just joined the government, or as a matter of fact, I haven't joined it yet because I haven't sworn in yet. So I accept the situation as it is. I know it's always possible to say, you know, last week we were in a better position, but this is really no point. I should think that just now it's well, let's put it like that. It's too late and too early, too late to react right away on the blockading of the state of Eilat, and too early to draw any conclusion of the diplomatic management or way of handling the matter. So I actually joined the government in a time in between, or before we can drop any conclusion, and after some conclusion were drawn up.
Our Roosevelt.
Our MPP, Defense Minister, could you give us an evaluation, as you see it, of the strategic capabilities of your forces as opposed to those of the
את היחסי הכוחות או את האסטרטגיה?
יכולת אסטרטגית שלנו.
I'm afraid I don't understand exactly what do you mean by a strategic comparison. I would understand a comparison of balance of power, something like that, but what exactly do you mean by strategic?
I meant that, balance of power.
Well, they have plenty of tanks and troops and everything, too much, too many, and we have much less than they have. Much depends, of course, where is the battle. If with the same, let's say, number of troops, you would have to go to Baghdad or to Cairo, it would have been very difficult. I hope it would be very difficult for them to, with their superiority of numbers, to attack Tel Aviv, because they have to make the way from their bases and capitals to Israel. But on the whole, of course, the number and of their forces is bigger than ours, but still I hope that we can make it, but much depends, very much depends upon where the battle is.
Yes?
Richard Chesnell, Newsweek magazine. Some of your government colleagues last night stated that unless the Egyptian troops pulled back and the Khan Straits were opened and the sabotage rate stopped, war was inevitable. Do you realistically believe that these three goals can be accomplished without war? In other words, do you think now that war is inevitable?
האם הוא אומר שאנשי הממשלה אמרו שאם הם לא יפתחו את המצרים וכו'
אמרו את זה.
הם אמרו אחרת. שלושת התנאים שאנחנו דורשים.
Well, I'm afraid I'm trying to find out exactly what you said. Better you say it again. So
last night, Mr. Alon stated that war was inevitable unless the Egyptians pulled their troops back from Sinai, the straits were open, and sabotage raids ended. I'm asking you, sir, if you think this is at all realistic diplomatically. In other words, do you believe that war is inevitable?
Well, you want me to comment on Igal Alon? I understand.
Next. Yes? Radio Luxembourg.
As your party has been opposed to the present government's policy, does your participation mean that this government has changed its policy or you have changed yours?
I think Radio Luxembourg can answer.
מה שאם אתה התנגדת לממשלה החדשה.
Well, I think they have changed their minds about accepting me to the government. I don't think that all of them really wanted me there very much before. So I think they have changed their mind in this respect. But as far as the policy towards our enemies, I don't know what was the policy before, and I wouldn't say that there is any change in the policy. I don't think that there's any change in the policy. And only on Sunday there will be the real first meeting of the government in which I will take part. The one that I participated 2 nights before, it was more about the way that the new ministers will government and not about the policy. So next Sunday, and by then I will not be a minister yet, will be the first meeting. I'm afraid that now it's a little bit too early for me to say anything about the policy of the government.
Let me say just one thing before, for people at the back. There will be a transcript of this press conference issued to you later, available to you at the PIO later on. Yes.
David Cohen, CBS News. Mr. Minister, it's being said that Israel has already lost the initiative by delaying this long. That they've lost the military initiative in a way that is almost total. Do you think that's true or not?
If you mean by losing the initiative that we haven't started an attack or a war, it's true. It's a fact. We haven't started any military act yet. But if you think or trying to say that by doing that we stand no chance that if a war starts later, let's say by an Egyptian attack, then it's too late for us and we are lost, well, I'm afraid I can't share such views.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Alan Hart, Independent Television General. In your book, in the second paragraph, you said it's very doubtful that Israel would have attacked in the Sinai campaign without the operation, the collusion of Britain and France. Well, as the odds are greater this time, they appear to be greater, and Britain and France aren't in collusion with it. Isn't there very much more chance that you could attack on that basis?
Well, I hope you read my book thoroughly, also the first part of it, in which the Prime Minister at that time, well, as a matter of fact, the Defense Minister, Ben-Gurion, presented the proposal of the headquarters and me as the Chief of Staff of the Israeli Army 10 months earlier, that we suggested that the Israeli Army at that time would free the state of Israel without any other forces, that no other forces was considering at that time an attack. So it was true that I said in my book that under the circumstances of October 56, probably our government at that time wouldn't have done that operation without France and England. But 11 months earlier, Israel would have done it alone. That is to say that it was not conditional. Now it's 11 years later.
I think we should add, though, that the word collusion never appeared in the second paragraph that you quoted.
General Diane, Tom Reed, Associated Press. As Minister of Defense, you are a civilian. We know you as a soldier. Do you intend to visit the front rapidly now?
Boys, we did not hear the question.
I'm sorry, the question was that before General Dayan was in the army, now he's a civilian as Minister of Defense. Does he propose to visit the fronts?
Yes, well, I'm sorry that you have omitted me being a civilian minister for agriculture for 5 years in between being in the army and now. But just now, practically, I'm afraid I'll have to attend some time to my office, but actually I made up for that because for the last 2 weeks I've been going around with the troops just to see what it's like as a civilian, and I'm really very much obliged to our Chief of Staff and Mr. Eshkol that they allowed me for the last 2 weeks to go around to see what it's like. So now I can take my time and devote it to the office for the next few days.
Can we stop this until we see what happened in the light, please? We use the cameras.
diplomatic dialogue.
We have the lights on now.
Can you, in the meantime, while the lights are off, ask the cameraman to sit down and let's hear a little better what
I'm sorry. Yes.
Flávio Gomes, Brazilian Press. Si Israël ne trouve pas moyen de trouver une passage pacifique pour Aqaba, est-ce que vous irez à la guerre?
השאלה היא, אם אנחנו לא נמצא אמצעים שלום, פשוטים, לשטוח את הדרך לעקבה, אם נלך למלחמה.
Well, I think that...
Just one moment, yeah. Just one moment.
I think that this is our government policy as stated by Mr. Eshkol time and again, and I fully agree with that.
What was the question?
The question was
I don't speak French, so it's not that I tried to what was the question?
It was a straight. I think it was a straight. I think it was a. I think the question was simply was if you are you going to proceed through diplomatic channels alone, or are you going to war? Very simple question.
Well, I understand that just now our government is trying to get the help, and more than the help, to get the international forces, countries to secure the free passage of Eilat. And I know that this is just now the present policy, and I fully agree with that.
Mr. Dayan, have you got any promise for international forces to help you in this?
Me personally, you mean?
The government.
Oh, the government. Well, I don't know. I haven't met yet the government, and I don't know. Well, and what is the concrete promise? That's I think it's very, very difficult to define. I'm sure that our government got some positive reaction, otherwise they wouldn't have relied and wouldn't have hoped for international action to ensure the free passage of Eilat. But how concrete, how practical, and how binding there is such promises or action, that I really couldn't say. I should say that our foreign minister, Mr. Iban, he's probably in the position to try to go into details about that.
Right?
Yes, the Dutch radio. How do you evaluate the possibility that Egypt, in case of war, will use long-distance rockets or gas?
They can try.
Yes.
What about guarantees from the let me say the question again. Has the government asked for or gotten any guarantees on the other two conditions that your government has given as for bringing about peace again in the Middle East? In other words, the drawback of Egyptian troops and the end of sabotage. I mean, these are three conditions that have been stated by the government to end the crisis.
Whether our government got any promises that somebody will do that for us?
Well, there would be some Western guarantees to perhaps bring that about.
I don't know. I don't know whether we got such promises or not. But let me say that I personally not only wouldn't expect, but really don't want anyone else to fight for us. So whatever can be done through diplomatic ways, I would welcome and really encourage in all ways. But if somehow it will come for real fighting, I wouldn't like American or British boys to get killed here in order to secure Israel. And I don't think we need it.
Mr. Minister, do you think that if it comes to a fighting, you can win at this stage of armaments and readiness?
Just now?
Yes.
Yes.
Now or in a month?
In a month? I don't know. Now, yes, I think so.
Yes.
Now, I just want you to understand, when I said in a month, I was joking, because I don't really anticipate any major changes in a month or 2 months or 6 months. But I think we can win, yes. I'm really surprised that you ask it. I don't know whether you ask it sincerely, whether I believe that we can win. Of course I do.
Well, I wonder because I feel the Arabs at this moment are numerically and by armament stronger than the Israelis.
Yes, I said that their numbers are bigger, but I think we could win.
General,
Just a minute, just, yes?
That's television.
Yes?
How long can Israel afford to keep its troops mobilized?
How long? כמה זמן אנחנו יכולים להמשיך להחזיק את הצבא?
Mobilized. Well, some countries went into world wars that lasted 4 years or so. We didn't have we didn't have to do it yet.
Yes.
General, you appear to be very happy and perky yourself. How do you think that President Nasser might have felt? You look very happy yourself. How do you think President Nasser might have felt the moment he heard that you've been appointed defense minister for Israel?
I really have no idea. I would like to meet somebody who saw him at that time and to find out. I don't know. How can I?
What would your guess be? What would you think he thought of himself?
Believe me, my profession is not to make such guesses. I am an agriculturist and a military man. How can I try to guess how Nasser looked when he heard that? I'm not a psychologist.
Right.
General, in 1956, after Israel took the Straits of Tiran, you surrendered them on certain guarantees. If it should prove necessary for Israel again to take the Straits, would you surrender them this time?
Well, I can tell you what my views were about it. At that time and later on, I thought that if the Egyptians were ready to promise free passage, free navigation to Eilat, and that we should have handed it over back to the Egyptian just on that promise and go back. And I thought at that time that for them it was such a victory to get it back and to have the Israeli troops going back to Israel that perhaps they would have agreed for that. Perhaps not, I don't know, perhaps not. But if we could get such a promise, I, for one, and this is my very personal views, would have been very satisfied that we could reach an agreement with an Arab country that would mean that they would stop hostility. We withdraw, we go back, they take it back, but on the condition that we enjoy free navigation there.
General, is there any possibility of the Israeli government asking Jews in overseas communities to come to Israel to fight alongside your own troops, or are you going to keep it on the present basis where they're merely doing civilian jobs?
Well, at least just now we have more volunteers in Israel that we can take or that we think are really necessary. I don't know, even my office is overcrowded all the time with the people that want to come, not to work in office, but through the office to go to join the troops more than we really feel that we need now.
Yes?
Are you going to tolerate the incidents along the borders as we have seen these days in the troops without counteraction?
Well, I think that the policy about that hasn't changed, about not tolerating, and during the last few days or so, there was one incident, which is about the average that we have been having for a long time, and I think that the incident hasn't increased and the policy hasn't changed. Policy of Pinkas Patua, how do you say that?
The open book.
The open book. I'm sure it has been written down.
What about the story that Israeli troops, they like to fight in the dark, no moon in the sky, provided the Arabs are quite scared of the dark?
Well, do you think that we could do something about the moon?
Now that we can fight without moon in the sky.
Now we'll have to wait another 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, but I wonder.
Well, it's a good idea.
But I think it's true to say that our army also gets training in daylight fighting.
General, the International Red Cross seems to have found Egypt guilty of gas warfare. What is your opinion as a soldier on that?
I'm sorry, about gas?
The International Red Cross seems to have found Egypt guilty of using gas warfare in the Yemen. What do you think as a soldier about that?
I agree with as a soldier, I agree with the Red Cross.
Are there any other questions from the floor? Just a minute. האם אפשר להשיג, האם אפשר, אני חושב שאפשר להשיג את זה דיפלומטיה.
Well, I don't know. I think that if Egypt, I don't think really that sheer diplomatic ways, or let's say that the UN, just by asking Egypt to do it, that can be done that way. Anyway, it didn't work this way about the more important question of the state of Eilat. So I don't know. I doubt very much whether Egypt would respond just for a call on behalf of the United Nations. They wouldn't have brought their forces in the first place.
General Dayan, if war does break out, do you believe they will be short?
Well, if a war does break out, I hope we shall win. That's the main point.
If a war does break out, sir, do you believe that it can be confined to the Middle East, or will it spread?
Well, that I don't know. I mean, about other countries and other forces, I'm not really the address for such a question. What do you think?
You're the soldier, sir.
Yes?
What do you think of the American-Canadian proposal to put the UN on both sides of the border?
Can't hear the question.
The question was what General thinks of the US-Canadian proposal to have UN troops on both sides of the border.
The first problem now is to have the free passage of the state. There were UN forces there. And one day when Nasser didn't like it, he just sent them off. So what is the point to put them on both sides of the border, one side of the border, if whenever Nasser feels like, he just send them home and blockade their passage? So what's the point now of bringing up such proposal?
Anybody at the back? I can't see too well. Ma? Ken, sorry.
General Diane for Jewish Chronicle. Should war break out, can we expect the military tactics and doctrine that governed Israel's operations in 56 will be similar in 67?
אם אנחנו נשמע אותה טקטיקה שאנחנו עשינו
I don't know. I wish I knew what the tactics in 56 was. The tactics is to win, and the sooner the better.
I think we have time for two more questions. Somebody who hasn't asked yet.
מכיוון שיש פה מצלמה אחת של היומן הישראלי, מה יש לך לומר לציבור בארץ?
בבקשה.
Well, I'll answer it first in English. And I didn't really ask. I feel that you might be disappointed. I didn't feel like making any press conference because I didn't want to say anything. I didn't have to say anything. So to make any briefing or any statement at all. But I was told that some people want to ask questions. I was really willing to answer any question as far as I can do that. And therefore, I haven't said anything yet to the soldiers in Galei Tzahal or to the Israeli people because I didn't feel that I have anything to say. I haven't joined the government yet. I haven't participated in any meeting yet. Now to start by talking or making any statement. So I apologize for disappointing you by not saying anything really of any importance. And this is also my answer to the gentleman who asked, what do I have to say to the people of Israel? That before saying anything, let's get into the government and clear things out and join the other members of parliament and find out about the policy, and then I would feel whether I have anything to say or not.
General, is it correct to assume from your replies that you personally have lost confidence in diplomacy or the United Nations, to lift the threat from the Arab world?
No, what's correct? Well, I would be glad and surprised if they do that. But I do not hope or really expect or even want other peoples to fight and get killed for us. That's very clear. Now, if anything can be achieved through diplomatic ways, that's by far better, by far better. Now, what really happened during the last weeks was that it collapsed. All the arrangements that were made 10 or 11 years back were collapsed. Now, whether one can get out of that very hopeful, I doubt very much. So, of course, like everybody, what we see now, we watch now the collapse of international arrangement without any notice or warrant or any one step trying to prevent it, to stop it. But if somebody will start again and will succeed in achieving and getting the freedom of passage through the state of Eilat through diplomatic ways, I'll be very glad about it. And I think that it should be given a chance.
Mr. Defense Minister, I may be misjudging the Israel people, but my feeling is they feel that another war would be much more costly than the Sinai campaign. What is your view?
Who are they?
The people of Israel.
They feel that it will be more costly.
This is my view.
Well, perhaps, yes, I think they have a case about it. They have a case about it because no matter how the Sinai campaign started, eventually and ultimately, at the same time, British, French troops were fighting in Egypt when the Israeli troops did their war in Sinai. So I can imagine that people think now that if the British bombers are not bombing the Egyptian airfield, of course somebody will have to pay for it, an Israeli, if there is a war now.
Francis?
Would you just said that we are witnessing international arrangements being collapsing without the world doing anything about it. Now, would you say that the world does try to do something about it? The statement of the Prime Minister of Britain and of a number of maritime powers indicates something, and and maybe it would be worth to try out whether these
Now, what I referred to was about the United Nations emergency forces in the stationing and taking care of the state of Eilat, of Aqaba. When that was called off, it was done just like that, in no time. And it was not brought up to the Security Council or to the Assembly, just Nasser asked for it and the Secretary General agreed, and that was that. Now I understand a new attempt in a new way is being done, and I think this should be given a chance.
Well, I think if there's no more, well, just one.
Is it an important one?
Oh, naturally. Not about how he thinks. Not about how Nasser, what? No. I think that Nasser, feels a little less happy than
how I feel that he feels that I feel.
Please give me the chance to ask.
Right, yes.
General, it seems to me that a lot of Israelis feel that if there is a war, this time you will have to strike very hard at your Arab enemies to prevent this sort of situation arising every 10 years. Is this what you feel in your heart?
Well, every 10 years, this sounds very regular, I know, but I think that at any war, if you really want to fight and to win, you have really to try to strike very hard and to do it the best way that you can.
But do you think you should fight to end this once and for all if you could?
No, I don't think that in war there is any such terminus once and for all, not between, in history, between Germany and the other countries. Nothing like once and for all. You don't know what next generation will do, what balance of power would be. You win a war and then a new situation starts. I don't think that anything like that of once and for all can be applied to wars at all.
Well, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.